Michael, something to add here?
Yeah, that's very, very important. And I think we're going to get to this question, but I'm just going to jump to it now. And if we want to go over it later. So, Chelsea, how long has it been since you coached with Farrukh?
It's been, I think, around 2 years now. Yeah, two
Wow.
years.
Okay. So a lot of people wonder, does this have longevity? Does this last? Or is it something that just works for, the first 90 days or while you're in coaching? Because people want stuff that is going to last. So maybe if you could say a little bit about uh, how this has been working for you over the last 2 years. And then we've also seen you in the Virtual Speech Masters Club, which we're going to add a link for that. And we've just seen you grow even more from there. But the question is, does it last? Like, does it stick?
So in it in my experience, I would say it actually gets better as the years go by, as long as you continue putting your new skills to use, right? As long as you make sure you don't revert to like your old, year consciously and constantly, put in your new skills to use. So for me, it's easier for me to speak, in any kind of situation, be it presentations, in meetings this year than even last year. So as the years keep going by, like it's continuing to be easier and easier and easier for me as I continue to, just because for me now, I don't even think about it. For me, this is how I speak now. So that's just I take it as that's just how I speak now. And as I continue to do that, I'm also building more confidence because now I just hardly have to think about my speech. It's just something that I know it's no longer a problem for me as much as it was, when I started. So certainly it gets easier as the years go by, as long as you continue to just you put in the work. I would say that the beginning is the hardest, right? So when you start, it's the hardest, but as the years go by, it just sort of becomes a part of you and it gets easier from there.
So you made a really good point. It's really a matter of putting into practice your new speaking style every time you speak. Forever, basically, right? You just keep using it.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, what some people do is they just only try to use it in high pressure speaking situations. And so that then, and then in every other situation, they revert back. So obviously, as the months and years go by, they're struggling, right? And stuff goes out the window, then they get discouraged and they start reverting back. But if you use it all the time, every day, every week, every month, every year, just like you said, it becomes the way you speak. Like, this is just the way I speak.
Exactly.
And that's what we want people to know. Is this? It's a skill and it's a habit. And if you just use it all the time, and then if you go out and you try to use it more, which is another question I have for you, which you kind of answered, but I want you to say a little bit more about it. So you said as you started speaking and you started to see yourself speaking well, you built confidence, because I've heard this a lot, and then you wanted to speak more, right? And so you started accepting and taking advantage of more speaking opportunities. So what I'd like to hear is how much, like, did you go out and start creating and taking advantage of more speaking opportunities? What did that look like during your progression?
So an interesting question because so my job, working in marketing, it already puts me in a position where I have to give presentations. And then the fact that I also work remotely as well was a factor. But the big difference was in the past, before I started Pro90D, there were in cases where I could avoid, I would do everything in my power to avoid them. But in cases where I had no choice but to do it will be accompanied with anxiety. Like I would lose sleep literally nights before the event. I would just be dreading it. I'll be so anxious. I wouldn't eat. Like it was so, it had a lot of psychological and like emotional effects on me, and it was just a lot of pressure. But with the program, I could still, just take those meetings, handle those. I would actually put myself forward for presentations at work. I would lead meetings without even giving it a second thought, right? Whereas in the past, just looking at my schedule, scanning ahead, like my calendar for the week and seeing some meetings, the anxiety, I would already be very anxious. But now I don't even look at the calendar. It's like any meeting is fine. Like it has just become a part of me, and I don't think too much about it. And so that's yeah.
So I want you guys to hear that. She says, any meeting is fine. So now she's not staying up late, worrying for days and hours about speaking in meetings and doing presentations. And it's been 2 years. And here's a question that's going to come up later on, but I'll just ask it now, and then I'm going to hand it back over to Farrukh. So as a founder, I was actually cracking up because Farrukh and I talked about this yesterday. So you chose purposely to work with Farrukh and not me. And I think there were 2 key reasons for that. One had to do with pricing, but then there's another reason that you chose to work with Farrukh. So tell us a little bit about why you chose to work with Farrukh and not me.
Yes. So for me, the reason was because I was interested in working with Farrukh because he's someone who has been through the program. So I felt like working with someone who was once in the shoe that I was as a student and, not as the founder, he would relate even more so to my experiences, and just seeing that he was able to go through the program and then seeing the impacts and just the transformation that he experienced, it just, was like a closer, it felt within my reach, if I should put it that way. So it felt more within my reach, and just felt like he would just closely relate to my experiences. And yeah, that was my reason for working with him.
And then there's a second reason, which had to do with pricing, right?
Yeah.
So, so say just a little bit about that.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So the pricing as well, right? During the time that I worked with him, I think there was actually like a discount. So it was $997 if I remember correctly. And for me at the time, I wasn't really working for that long. So I viewed it as an investment. It was actually something I had to pay for like over some months because I had to save for it. So my cousin who lives in the US paid for me upfront, but I had to reimburse, like I actually had to plan for that because I knew that I had to pay back, and I had to pay her back over a period of time. But for me, I just felt like this is really important. This is something worth investing in because, like I said, one speech is, I would say like it's one of the most important things. It's one of the first impressions that people have of you. So no matter how good you are, or no matter like what you have to offer, if you're not able to sell that well, if people are not able to get that from you, and if the one powerful tool to express that is your speech, of course. So if they're not able to get that from you, they just assume that, it's not. So for me, it was an investment because I felt like if I worked on my speech and I was able to overcome the challenges that I was dealing with that, I would be able to even make a whole lot more from that. And yeah, so I went that extra mile and extra length to be able to afford it.
So we want people who are viewing, it doesn't matter what country you live in or where you are, if you see your speech as being important enough and you look at this like an investment, and I'm sure that you obviously have earned the money back because you had to pay it back.
Mhm.
So you couldn't have paid it back unless you earned it. And now
Exactly.
you're earning more and more. But
Mhm.
I mean, I've had people in Africa literally save for years to work with me. And you were blessed enough to have someone to pay for you up front,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? And then you paid them back. So when
Yes.
someone says, I mean, obviously there are some people just don't have the money, they don't have access, they can't do it. But I would
Mhm.
say that there are a lot of people, especially in places like the US, Canada,
Mhm.
and Europe and places, and even in Africa, that do have the money or have access or can get it if they really
Mhm.
want to,
Mhm.
right? Just like you
Mhm.
did. And that once you do that, it can transform and change your entire life, your personal life, your professional life. And it's an investment where you literally get the money back often within a short period of time, right?
Mhm.
And then you position yourself to continue to earn more and more money throughout your lifetime because of your
Exactly.
speech.
Yeah.
So we're really, really proud of you that you took that step, and we're actually seeing you grow. As you said, you just keep getting better and better as you attend our virtual speech masters club. You're
Mhm.
just getting better and better and better every week, literally.
Thank you. Mhm.
Okay, Farrukh, what's next? What's our next question?
Exactly. Some wonderful points mentioned by you, Chelsea, overall. So yeah, I also had to work on something. Like after I worked on my speech, there was something else that I struggled with as well. I shared it with Michael. And even at that time, I also did not have the funds and I had to pay something like 1600 USD or something. The same was the case for me. I had someone in the US who paid, and then as I kept earning, I paid back to him. So the point that Michael and Chelsea, and of course me, we are trying to make right here is that if you really want to do something, you will. Like people, Michael, as he said, people have saved for years. So if this is really something that you're into, that you're willing to do, you will find a way to do that. All right, good. So moving on towards the next thing, like we talked about you working on your speech and reaching automaticity. So a very important part in this is changing your mindset, changing your speaking identity. So I would like for you to explain a bit about that, that how were you able to transform your mindset, your speaking identity as a whole,
Mhm.
as you kept moving forward? Because there are various systems out there which are just focusing on the physical aspect of it. That just do this, extend every word or speak really slow, drag your speech. They are often focusing on that. So how important is mindset, speaking identity? How did you work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say that we really can't overemphasize the importance of having a new speaking identity. And this is where modeling plays a very crucial role. So for me, when I'm speaking, or when I was, when I was creating that new speaking identity, even though it was hard to actually be consistent with it initially at the beginning, especially, like in high pressure situations at work, you feel, oh, people judge me for sounding differently and all of that. But as I got used to it and I just pushed myself to continue, I just can't stress enough like how important it is for your new speaking style to be different and distinct from how you used to speak before, because your brain has already associated that your old speaking style with stuttering. And so if you want, one thing that I've even noticed personally is whenever I'm in a dip, right? Whenever I'm in a dip or I find that I'm struggling, one thing I realized was that that was actually my old speaking style. Like I was slipping, from the new modeling and like the new. So it's very important that the way you speak, like you have a different, you should actually be able to distinguish in your brain, okay, this is your old style, this is the new one. It has to be distinct. And so for me, uh, it just, that played a very huge part, and just modeling helped me create my new speaking style. And I think one key thing for me with modeling initially was I had initially thought that modeling meant speaking like Michael, and for me it was a struggle. First of all, being female. Second of all, my accent, being African and all. So, but you told me during our coaching, Farrukh, that all that I needed to do was to feel different. Like I just needed to be speaking in a different way or just have something that triggers my new speaking style, whether it's hand gestures or extending. And so I really got to understand what modeling entailed. And that just helped me like really comfortable with that and helped me create and just shape like the new way that I speak.
Farrukh, can I jump in a little bit? Because I had a great conversation with a lady yesterday. Now, she's a white lady, right? So she obviously she's a lady, she's a woman. She speaks differently, she has a different accent than I do. And she said something uh, that I understood the psychology behind it, but it was kind of surprising. And so it shows you the range of how modeling can work. So modeling can simply be, you can model yourself, you can model your best self. If you speak well, you can just think about, man, let me speak the way I spoke when I spoke that time, when I spoke really well, which is obviously what we want you to start doing anyway. Right? It's not about modeling me or someone else. But what she said that she does in her practices that was really quite funny, because she sent me a video and she said, "Hi, this is Michael Williams and welcome back to Seven Steps." So, and I said, okay, make sure you use your name, just because sometimes people need to use their own name. Now, she's someone who doesn't stutter, but still has some challenges when she's speaking under pressure, speaking too fast, cloudy mind, and then probably stumbling over her words and so forth. So we also work with people who just struggle with their speech and not stutter, as well as people who stutter even severely. But what she said she does is when she used my name, it actually helped her feel more different. Like by just saying, "Hi, I'm Michael Williams." I was like, wow. And I understood why, but I always tell people, no, use your own name. And so now, and this is one of the things that makes this process so effective, is that we build into it feedback. When someone says something that works and there's science behind it, we build it into the program. So the program just keeps getting better and better. And again, there's a lot of science behind what she said, that when she would use her name, it's like, okay, it works a little bit. But when she says, "Hi, I'm Michael Williams," she said, bam, she immediately felt different. and it helped her speak differently, and it triggered modeling. So I just wanted to throw that in so that people could see that there's a lot of flexibility. Sometimes it's just a matter of, like Farrukh said, like some people just might struggle trying to feel like the model. And it could just be, you just need to feel different than you usually feel, right? And that will work for you. Sometimes you can model your best self, and that will work. And then other times you can just go full in the modeling and kind of try to become the other person. Now, some people might say, well, I don't want to lose my own identity. You don't. You actually just become a better you. So when people see you and hear you, they're not thinking, oh, you're pretending or you're acting like somebody else or who is this? They're just seeing a better you. So you don't lose yourself. You just become a better you. So I wanted to throw that in, just to share that.